the Magnificent Seven, as we call them. And there they are: Alphabet, Amazon, Apple, Meta, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Tesla. Alphabet, formerly known as Google, and Meta, obviously formerly known as Facebook, as we said earlier. These stocks have been on an incredible run, an unbelievable run. They actually make up just under 30% of the S&P 500 itself. Almost 30%. Unbelievable. These 7 names have been responsible for almost 72% of the growth we've seen on the index this year. Unbelievable how well these stocks have done. And in my opinion, I think they're going to continue to do well. I believe if you're an investor today looking for growth, I think you have to own 1 or 2 of these names. And obviously, some of the names are a little more cheaper than others. I've been a buyer lately of Amazon and Alphabet, as Apple and Meta and Microsoft and NVIDIA, for that matter, have gotten a little more expensive. Tesla as well. Tesla, we saw a downturn. Now it's been on a bit of a rebound. But at any point in time, if you do see some sell-offs in these names, I think they're a fantastic idea, especially if you're looking for growth in your portfolio. And want to take a look at some, as I said off the top of the show, fantastic charts. The first 2 charts that we have here on the Magnificent Seven will show you. This, again, shows you the share of the largest 7 companies. As I said, there you go, 29%. And you can see over time how much these companies have made up of the index. And look at it, it's just shot up. Coming out of pandemic, out of COVID in 2020, these stocks have been not only great for defensive purposes to protect your portfolio, but they've been good to grow your portfolio as well. The chart on the right here, you can take a look and you can see how these 7 stocks have fared. They're up 71%. The S&P 500 up 19%, as I mentioned, and everything else, the other 493 stocks, up 6%. Unbelievable. So what does that tell you? Well, that tells me that if you have a diversified portfolio, you probably haven't done as well as had you obviously owned these 7 names. But who's going to own these 7 names, right? We talk about building diversified portfolios as we go. And so, there are many other tech names that have done well as well. I don't want you to think that these are the only ones that are higher. And so owning a piece of tech as part of a diversified portfolio, buying into it at the start of the year as a contrarian investor, has obviously fared well for investors. And there was a report out of Goldman Sachs recently, and it said, well, here it is, that they have never seen the index as top heavy as it is right now. So is that maybe scary for investors? Not sure. At least these companies are the biggest names in the world today. And they're names that I think, as I said earlier, you can buy for defensive purposes and offensive, meaning and for growth. Another 2 charts I wanted to show here, why these companies have done as well as they have. The first one here talks about sales growth of the Magnificent Seven versus the rest of the S&P 500. And you can see how much the sales growth has outperformed the rest of the index. Take a look. Just recently, 11% versus 3% of the S&P. Look at margins. Wow, look at the margins, the growth in the margins. Magnificent Seven, 21.8%. Looking for, it's come down a little bit, but you're looking for almost the same, just under 21% in 2024 and over 21% in 2025. You're looking at S&P 500, just under 10%, maybe going up to slightly above 10 and 10.5. So you could see that, there's no wonder why these businesses, these companies, whether it's any of them, Apple or Amazon or Facebook, Meta, Google, Alphabet, it's no wonder these companies' stock price has been moving significantly higher versus the rest of the index. It's outperforming in all the right places. It is a place that individual investors have flocked to, especially when you have dips in NVIDIA, they bought in, dips in Apple, share price, investors have bought in. And I think that's been the right strategy. And so, as I've always maintained, you want to own some of these Magnificent Seven names. You probably don't want to own all of them in your portfolio, but if you own just a small piece of them, I think your portfolio would have done exceptionally well over the last year and then maybe even the last few years.